What's up team, my name is Mark and welcome back to Making Instagram Bangers, the series where I teach you all the tips and tricks that I use to shoot and edit my photos. Today we're going to be looking at how you can recreate this cool effect that I've been seeing all over Facebook recently. It's this sort of blend of 2D and 3D photos. Like you take a normal 2D photo and then you turn it into this sort of 3D variation where you get a little bit of perspective and depth, and it looks really, really cool. So this is a feature that's already available in some of the newer phones. I think in portrait mode, if you take a photo, you get that effect of depth. But today we're going to be looking at how you can recreate this on your own using Photoshop and apply it to any image you want. So how does this work? Now, on newer phones like the iPhone X or the Samsung S9, when you take a photo in portrait mode, the image doesn't just contain the light and color information anymore. It also contains information about depth and perspective. That way your phone knows what's in the foreground and what's in the background, and it enables the software to kind of create that 3D effect or add some blur to the background or something like that. It allows the phone to understand what's where in the 3D space. But because we want to do this effect on just any regular photo that we want using Photoshop, we're going to have to create what's called a depth map. So what is a depth map? Now, basically a depth map is just a version of your image that shows you what's closer to the camera and what's further away from the camera. In the examples here, anything that's white is closer to the camera, anything that's black is further away. And that way you get a gradient and you can see in the 3D space what's closer and what's further away from the camera. And that's what we're going to use to be able to recreate that 3D effect and post some really cool shots on Facebook. Basically, we're going to combine this photo right here, the original, with this photo right here that we're going to create in Photoshop. Super easy steps. Mix it all together, and when you post it on Facebook, you'll get this cool 3D parallax, depth, perspective, cool 3D effect that we're looking for. How does that sound? Awesome? Right, let's go then. Okay, so we're in Photoshop right now, and the first thing I want to do is have a think about how I'm going to apply this effect. Now, for me, there's three different elements to this photo. There's the grass at the bottom, there's the elephant, and there's sort of this background area at the top. Each photo varies, of course. You might have photos that have got a lot more sort of depth to it, some photos that are much flatter. Now, just for this example, I've got a pretty basic photo, but I will show you a couple of examples of other ways you can apply this in just a minute. So as I said, we've got the grass, we've got the elephant, and we've got the background. Now, what I'm going to do is make selections for all of these three. So I'm just going to grab the quick selection tool up here. There we go. I'm going to zoom in a bit, and I'm just going to make a selection of the elephant. Something like this. There we go, just a quick and easy selection. There we go, something like that. Let's grab these legs. Okay, now I'll hold down the options key just to remove some of the grass here, which isn't part of the elephant. There we go. Make sure I've got all of this. Something like, there's some ear missing here. Let's do that real quick. There we go. Let's get rid of that area here, and let's get rid of all this grass here. There we go, that's looking pretty good. Oh, no, there's a little piece here as well. Okay, we've got a basic selection. I'm just going to hit select and mask. There we go. I might increase the radius of edge detection just to make sure we get the edges nice and clean. I'm going to smooth out that selection just a little bit and add a little bit of feather. There we go. Now we've got a nice clean selection. So I'm just going to scroll down to output settings, output to new layer. There we go. And voila. Okay, so we've got this first layer of the elephant. So I'm just going to call this elephant. There we go. Done. Cool. So that's one down. Now the second one is quite simple. I just want to get this grass area. Now because this area is square, I really don't have to be too fancy. So what I'm going to do is just grab the rectangular marquee tool, draw a big rectangle here, create a new layer, of course, and just fill this with either black or white. Doesn't really matter. I'm going to call this grass. There we go. And place this at the bottom. Okay, so now I've got these two selection layers. Now what I'm going to do is grab the grass selection, hit gradient overlay, I'm going to reset this to default, And I'm just going to put a nice gradient going from white to black. Now remember, anything that's white is closer to us, anything that's black is further away. So I'm just going to reverse this real quick. There we go. And I'm going to put some sort of light gray. I don't want it to be too white because that would be stuck to the camera, so we are going to play around with this. And then further away, I'm going to put sort of darker gray, something like this. There we go. Cool, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to create a new layer for the background. I'm going to fill this with white. There we go, put this at the bottom. And now I'm going to fill this color overlay with the same color as this area here. There we go. Cool. Now the reason I do this is because this grass is going further and further away from us, but the trees are vertical. So this area here is really close. This area here is quite far, but this area here compared to the end of the grass, they're quite close to each other. So I can get away with this. So something like that. There we go. Now if I double click on the elephant layer, hit color overlay, what I'm going to do is apply the color that's at his feet. So if I click here, there we go, something like that. Boom. So the same thing goes for the elephant and the background. It's one object that's vertical. So in a 3D space, his feet and his head are pretty much the same distance to us roughly compared to all the rest. So we've got this nice gradient of the grass going further and further away. We've got the trees in the back that are all vertical, and we've got the elephant that's vertical as well. And there we go. So I'm just going to select all these layers, put them in a folder, and that is now my depth map. And there we go. So what I'm going to do is just save this as, I'm going to call it DM at the end. There we go. And now what we're going to do is head over to omnivert.com/3D photo. I'll put a link in the description, don't worry. But this is basically the tool we're going to use to create the 3D photo from our depth map. So I'm just going to grab our photo here. There we go. And select image category, parks, outdoor, whatever. We're going to click on use my own file. And then we'll put the depth map in there. And there we go. We now have a 3D version of our photo. Now this looks really cool already. However, you may have noticed when I go towards the corners, I get this sort of weird blurry effect around the elephant. And that's because the elephant compared to the background might be a bit too close and there's a bit too much parallax going on. So what we're going to do is fix that straight away. So if I head back into Photoshop, I'm going to apply a levels adjustment layer. And what this does is it basically allows me to crush the sort of black and white values on the photo. So I'm just going to bring the whites up and bring the blacks down a little bit, and then maybe move this towards here. Basically what I'm trying to do is reduce the contrast between all these different sections of the image. That way when applied to 3D, there won't be so much parallax, but it will be a much cleaner effect. So let's look at before and after. There we go, that's much closer values. So if I save this again, let's try that. I'm going to call this DM2. There we go. Now if I change the depth map, apply the second one, and there we go. This is a much cleaner effect already. Now, as I mentioned, you will have to tinker around with this and play around and suss out what values work and what don't. It will be a bit back and forth, but the end result looks really, really cool. So that is really, really cool. And it really adds such a cool element to your photo. Now this is a pretty basic version of this effect, but there's 100 different ways of doing it, and you can apply it to much more complex photos. But the idea is to show you just some basic versions, that way you can start playing with it and start having fun with this effect, and then apply it to more complex images. So here's another image I created earlier. As you can see, there's a lot more depth to it. There's many, many layers, but it just looks really, really cool. When you start spinning around, you get that real feeling of depth. And if you look at the depth map I created, this is the file. Now, there's a bunch of different gradients in here. There's a gradient going all the way to the back, but the same principles apply. Each of these doorways is one shade darker than the other, and I applied a single color to Laura, who's standing just there, using the color that was at her feet. And that way we know she's aligned with the rest of the floor here, and behind this front door, but before this second doorway here. And you can get some really, really cool effects. Now, once you're happy with the photo, you have to click I agree with the policy, which of course you've read, generate 3D photo. There we go, click on that, and then Download it. Now, the photo as is looks exactly the same as the original, but we're just gonna download it. There we go, download. Just gonna transfer it to my phone. Okay, so the photo is now on my phone, but there are a couple of extra steps you need to take just before you can post it. So the first one is going to be to head to Facebook. Head to Facebook 360, and you have to like the Facebook 360 page. That's one of the requirements in order to post the photo for some reason. And once that's done, you should be able to post a photo straight away. So if I hit post, if I scroll all the way down, there'll be 3D photo. Our new photo should appear in there. Give it a second to load, and boom, look at that. That just looks amazing. That is so cool, such a cool effect. And without a lot of work, you could really achieve something cool on Facebook. Now, I can see a bunch of different things where this could be useful. You could apply this to text, for example. So you could have a text overlay that's separated from the background and things could sort of move around. You could do this in advertising, or you could just apply it to your own photos because, I mean, let's be honest, this looks really, really cool. And boom, you're done. Super easy stuff. So we went from this original photo here and turned it into this cool looking thing right here. That is awesome. And we achieved this basically just making selections and filling them with color. So really, really easy stuff at the end of the day. And the effect just looks awesome. So that's it for the tutorial, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you found something useful. If you did, please like the video. Drop me a comment, let me know what you want to see next. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Mark. I'm a photographer, videographer, and I teach you all the stuff that I know. So make sure to hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for more. In the meantime, stay creative, make some 3D photos.